My presentation is based on my experience as a researcher, but also partly based on the work supported by the Ministry of Market Consumption and Ministry of Economy of Poland, because I was a part of the group of experts preparing the report for TTIP negotiations, and we found that legal standards are really, really weak in future mandate. So, on the beginning, very research questions why it's important. Yet we have very limited literature on EU and label standards. There are few articles, not so many books. They mainly focus on the comparison between the EU and the United States. Authors indicating a soft approach adopted by the EU, and positive experts when the hard approach, a very strong approach, adopted by the US. The literature has been mainly descriptive, and what I didn't find in the literature is the absence of political, it is an absence of political competition to major EU institutional bodies and the Commission, Parliament, and committees and member states, and that's the essence of my presentation. My findings so far, EU presents itself in the FTAs and PTAs as a normative power. We can try to see transfer of European norms, when in fact EU abstains from the compulsory measures and through external governance present a soft approach to and cooperative promotion, but in fact it doesn't work. But how about other actors, just for example Canada? You'll see in the next few slides. So question one, first, why are you so weak in promoting labor standards? I do believe that every political action, also in the FTAs and PTAs, is for someone and for some purpose, and that's why labor standards are important for you, but for internal political processes, not for external activities, but for internal political processes. And I do believe that international labor standards and FTAs, PTAs help to achieve and sustain political monopoly of European Commission over the member states. A few hypotheses, provisions in the FTAs, PTAs promoted by European Commission stem from the logic of deeper and uncovered integration. I try to do it in the next few slides. Then we have strategic constellations of private and public actors who try to push the European Commission negotiators to make a situation that when we have a covered integration across their state powers, and labor provisions in fact are smokescreen for the economy and liberal ideas, or neoliberal ideas. And then European Commission is seeking to maximize its institutional power over the member states and possibilities for integration, for regulation of this area. As of today, European Commission doesn't have any political interest in promoting labor standards in FTAs and PTAs. Quickly about the outline of the project, we start from a technical framework, then move to a free trade agreement with South Korea as an example. They try to compare Canada, Colombia, and agreement with Peru and Canada, and then CETA and EU-Ukraine as an association agreement. And at the end, I try to build a model for labor provisions in the FTA. So a few theoretical elements. Well, when we look on the FTAs and PTAs and labor standards, we clearly see the transfer of corporate powers of member states. We see regulatory integration, we see the topos of the market proposed by Nicholas Jabko, and we see ideas, interests, and institutions behind labor standards. Still, there are very important constraints for the EU. You cannot ratify any other conventions. The only states can be parties thereto. All EU member states are parties of ILO, but number of conventions varies. So 38 from Estonia to 133 or more in Spain. Article 153, EU shall support and complement activities of member states, but most of the rules under ILO conventions are under Union acquis, which means that member states are hardly authorized to ratify labor ILO conventions. So even we have clauses in FTAs, in fact, they are part of ILO. Article 3.2 of the scope of the convention ILO shall be part of EU competences, so members must obtain authorization for transfer. Labor standards, as you probably know, are not covered by WTO. There's no option for panel thanks to Singapore issues, and it's a very bad situation for member states, but also for the European Union. As of today, we have 58 FTAs with labor provisions. We have 3 groups of EU member states who are pushing different models of labor permissions. They are UK plus Nordic plus Club Med, that's Spain, Portugal, and Italy. And then we have 3 groups of partner states for FTAs. They are developing countries, like Colombia, Peru, CARIFORUM, or rising powers, South Korea, India, Singapore, Thailand, plus developed countries, Canada and US. This, in red, they are concluded agreement, the signed agreement is half red, half blue, under negotiation. Canada, it's partly red because we don't have an agreement. It's not public, so we still don't know what is in fact in the agreement. When you compare the association agreement with Ukraine, which is in fact FTA, the treaty is very similar to not so official CETA agreement. What kind of provisions we may find? Exchange of information, labor standards should not be used for trade purposes, and parties should respect, promote, and reflect in relations and practices fundamental rights of member of ILO. But South Korea is a special case. Why? This is the first FTA after the Lisbon Treaty. There's no claim to ban the use of labor standards for protectionist purposes. You couldn't find it in this treaty. South Korea is not a party of Convention of Forced Labor. It's not a party of Convention of Association. Only 4 of 8 core conventions are for 3, 4. Okay, good. There's a very weak dispute settlement system. It is an advisory group composed by ECC, trade unions, entrepreneurs, and so on, but met only twice without any conclusions. When you look on the similar agreement with the United States, we will sign almost at the same moment. There's a Labor Affairs Council which is mandatory. The obligations for South Korea are very clear. There's a very strong business settlement system. There's strong role of unions who are taking part in negotiations. When you take other actors, good. For example, Canada and the rest of Colombia, there's a special annex for labor cooperation between Canada and the Republic of Colombia. There are financial penalties for violating the agreement up to $15 million. For Peru, for EU-Peru agreement can be temporarily suspended, but if you look on legal opinions, in the last year, trade unions were not taking part in negotiations. Child labor are still permitted. In 2011, 29 unions were killed without any reactions from the European Union. When we take CETA, as I said, it's not agreed but not public. There's a clear platform for consultation, there's a clear enforcement, we can find clear enforcement procedures, and all these elements are forced by Canadians. When we have Ukraine, it's de facto freedom agreements partly taken from CETA. We can find the elements of the ILO declaration, which will promote for the directives implemented by Ukraine in 3, 4, 5 years. And then the Commission has a full political power in that agreement. When we compare US and Guatemala, for example, when the US took Guatemala for a panel for violation of labor standards, at the same time, EU gave a very generous agreement to Guatemala. In the reports in 2014 on GSP and Guatemala, there are no serial shortcomings in Guatemala. At the same time, United States took Guatemala for the panel. Swaziland, the same story. U.S. lifted trade preferences because Swazi put ban on trade unions. At the same time, was a humanitarian debate in Swaziland. Commissioner de Gucht said we haven't identified any serious problems. So, in other case, Special Committee on Trade and Development for under EU South Korea FTA, not only twice, as I said, we didn't find any serious communication at the end. The joint EU CARIFORUM group has not met even once since its constitution. So that's the practice of labor standards. EU, Colombia, Peru, there are clear examples of violation of labor standards. Nothing happened on the EU side. What's the reason? Well, I think that's a loss of control of agenda setting by national governments. So national governments are not interested for some reason. Probably they are pushed by private actors. National preferences are over normative power. Europe must be confirmed. It's a regulatory situation, but no regulatory power on the EU side. the EU ideology doesn't matter with practice and strategic constellations. And when, for example, in South Korea, there were telecommunication companies. They pushed low labor standards in the agreement. So we have covered integration through FTAs, PTAs. So labor provisions are just in case. So when the EU would have or will have full political power, then we can use labor standards in FTAs. Right now, there is no need, so we have it just in case. The very questionable role of EU and civil society, very weak political power. Yeah, I'm about to finish. Labor standards are very important when the Commission has political power in hand. That's the example of EU. Ukraine, and I finish in 10 minutes. Sorry.
Thank you very much, also for sticking to the time. And finally, Lisa Lechner will present